Jugamos Juntos a Bádminton. En el día de hoy venimos con un nuevo vídeo y vamos a tratar uno de los golpeos más importantes en nuestro deporte, que es el remate. Y para ello, pues no vamos a estar solos, sino que hemos traído a un amigo nuestro, que es Idrees, un experto, un científico del deporte, que nos va a ayudar a explicar pues los movimientos concretos que realizamos con el remate y a ver cómo podemos mejorar ese golpeo. ¿Estás preparado?
Sí, esto va a estar muy interesante. Vamos allá.
Vamos con el vídeo.
Hi, Idrees.
Hola, Alicia, Samuel. It's very nice to see you both again.
Are you ready to talk about the smash?
Absolutely, yeah. I'm ready and rearing to go to talk about the smash, and yeah, I'm really looking forward to it. Thank you for the invite.
Perfect. What can you tell us about the smash?
What can I tell you about the smash? Well, I've got a whole presentation for you, so hopefully I'm going to tell you a few more details about the smash. But what I'm hoping to tell you about is the mechanics, how we perform the smash, the different techniques. Is technique that important? Is there too much focus on technique? And then I'm hoping to illustrate for you some methods, some really useful, hopefully, techniques for coaching the forehand badminton smash. So that's the hope and the aim of the presentation.
I am very nervous.
Yeah, me too. So
Why
you can start whatever you want.
No worries. Yeah, everyone relax. So we can share. Can you see that? Are we all good to go, Alicia?
Yes,
Perfect.
Yeah, perfect. So let's move that to the side so I can see as well. Right, everyone, all the viewers on YouTube from JJAB, from around the world, and hopefully when I share this on my social media as well, on LinkedIn, all my colleagues in sport and exercise science and from around the world, I hope you find this a useful presentation, and yeah, sit back, as Alicia and Samuel said before, and relax. So here's my presentation on performance and coaching of the forehand smash. So what is the forehand smash? So the forehand badminton smash is a complex, multi-segmented, so it requires all the muscles in the body to be able to perform a movement, which is the forehand smash. It's predominantly used to force an opponent backwards into a more defensive style of play, or to be able to ultimately produce winners. It's a key skill, like I mentioned before, for winning a point in badminton, and it's approximately used 1/5 of the time in the sport, the second most of any shot. As I'm about to talk about, the forehand badminton smash utilizes a full kinematic chain of the body. So energy is transferred from the feet all the way up the legs, up the torso, up the arms, to be able to produce or be able to perform the badminton smash. And as you guys know, and you'll have seen playing the sport at JJAB with some of the great work that Alicia and Samuel are doing in Tenerife and general, badminton lovers, the sport is a dynamic, ever-changing sport where athletes must adapt their movement and coordination and decision making. So I've got a few questions already, very kindly, from some of the viewers, from Alicia and Samuel, about what should we expect from the opponent? Should we base our decisions on the opponent? Absolutely. It's all about decision making. It's all about adapting to what you see in front of you on the badminton court.
Okay, we're ready for those questions.
So we've got a technical model here, or deterministic model of the forehand smash. So this is taken from my PhD thesis. So I did a brief introduction of myself, but my PhD was at Loughborough University, and I was very fortunate to have my project funded by the Badminton World Federation. And they provided us funding to look at the best players from around the world and look at their badminton smash. So we put reflective markers on the body, and that gave us like almost a CGI Lord of the Rings 3D picture of each athlete performing the smash. So this is really, you guys feel really lucky and fortunate. I've got you some images of one of the elite badminton players that we managed to capture some of the footage of whilst we were doing testing at the World Championship. So this is one of the 3D models from my PhD thesis. So we've got the preparation phase. So normally when we're analysing any kind of skill, sports skill. If it's a golf swing, if it's a badminton smash, if it's a tennis serve, soccer kicking, a penalty, then we normally have some kind of a model where we have different phases. So we've got here for the badminton smash, we've got the preparation phase, we've then got a backswing phase, and then we've got a forward swing phase. So this is typically what some coaches, some athletes will kind of think about when they're trying to learn a new skill.
Yeah, it's perfect. Yeah.
Perfect.
It's really easy to, like difference those phases. And just from the beginning, when you're starting to move to do the smash to the final point that you like arrive to the ground again just after jumping. Yeah, it's really
Absolutely. It's
interesting.
potentially an easy way of understanding and breaking down the skill to be able to learn it. But,
Yeah.
caveat, but I'm hopefully going to give you some different methods or a different way of thinking of how you could coach it in a different way.
Okay.
So hopefully this video should work and you can see it in a different idea now. Obviously, you guys, you're on the court all the time. You're there with JJAB in Tenerife. You're seeing badminton all the time, but just have a quick look of the movement in full from a 3D skeleton perspective. So this is a video recording. So you can see there, we've got the preparation phase, we've got the rotation of the torso, like we were mentioning earlier, Samuel. So you've got a few different angles here that I've managed to get as well. You can see
Yeah, it's amazing.
Very beautiful.
the forward swing, contact. Obviously, there's different methods in terms of, do we jump to play the smash? Do we stand and play the smash? Do we have a small jump? Obviously, this player is jumping.
Yeah, I can see that.
So I'm going to pause this because we've got lots to get through and lots of questions, Alicia, but happy to kind of share that video online and share it with you guys. No issue.
Perfect.
So let's just go through the phases now. So I'm talking to you about the kinetic chain or the kinematic chain in this instance with this player because we're talking about the transfer of energy. So you can't actually see energy, but it's the transfer of force from the ground all the way up the segments from the calf, from the lower leg, upper leg, torso, and how do we
Yeah.
transfer that energy to be able to perform the smash effectively. So you can see here it starts from the ankles, from the foot. Sorry, no, it doesn't. Get it right, Idrees, Dr. Idrees. It starts with the quadriceps first because remember we've got for this athlete they're actually jumping, so they have to first triple flex. They flex their knee and their ankles to get down. So the forces go through the upper leg into the lower leg. You can then see the forces going into the foot and the ankle in the preparation phase.
Yeah.
Idris is very important in this position, a foot position, because always people collocation your body in front of the net and not
They don't rotate.
yes,
Yeah.
no. The principal position is very important because always people
They go like really straight to the net and they don't have. Yeah. So you see.
You'll probably tell me what the Spanish phrase for it, but here in the UK, in English, we call it square on, rather than to side on. They become quite square on.
Exactly.
Yeah, and hopefully the coaching intervention that I talk about later will help with that. You're absolutely right.
Okay.
So foot position. Another point you touch on here, Samuel, is that the start position is important.
yes,
Absolutely. And I'm going to come on to that in a minute, but really good point. So really quickly, you can then see the forces or the energy going up the quadricep into the pelvis area, around the abdominals, up into the upper torso, into the scapula, and eventually into the upper arms as well. And then it
Okay.
goes up, all the way into the forearm, the radius and the ulna in the forearm, into the wrist. And that kinematic chain is important because if there's any leaks, what we call leaks in that kinematic chain, then energy won't be able to be transferred effectively. You know, there'll be some kind of weakness if we're very rigid, or we're straight up, or we're square on. We're not using the full forces in the body and from the ground. Then we're going to have leaks in our technique. We're going to have inefficiency. It's not going to be as efficient. Vale?
Okay, perfect.
Perfecto.
Perfect.
So now we're moving to, another phase.
Yeah, so this is the final phase. So this is the forward swing phase, and finally you can see there the energy is transferred from the forearm to the racket. So taking it from a different lens, a different frame of mind. So last year, a year and a half ago, I worked with a very talented female golfer. Um, she had a handicap of 7, and she was performing at regional or county level here in the UK. This was
Okay.
part of an accreditation process that I was doing for UKCA. Unfortunately, she's not managed to get back in touch with me today. Otherwise, I would have showed you some of the photos of her training as well. But really talented athlete. Love working with her. But just keeping her information confidential in terms of photos and things for this presentation. Although I'm sure she would have loved to have come on and shown a few photos anyway. But anyhow, so with golf is a sport that actually uses biomechanical technology quite a lot. So the photograph here that you can see is of a technology called TrackMan, which tracks the speed of the club head and also of the golf ball. So a lot of the research in golf has focused on strength. So I see you guys on your YouTube channel, on JJAB on the YouTube channel, doing some of your strength exercises, doing some of your power exercises. I've seen Alicia, doing a few bicep curls, a few shoulder exercises. So golf, because of the nature of the sport, is a lot about strength and power. And if you can improve your strength and power, inevitably, you're going to improve your club head speed, your ball speed, and also, most importantly in golf, the carry distance. So the distance in which the ball goes. So strength and power in golf are very, very important. There's a reason I've brought up golf and why my mind kind of casts back. So what I'm doing in the presentation is casting my mind back to influences. So working with Georgie in golf, and there's some stuff I've got with the Lawns Tennis Association, which I'll show you in a minute. So Lawns Tennis Association, LTA, is with Wimbledon in the UK. So I'm going to come on to that in a minute. But just a bit of an idea, a bit of a different lens.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
So here is some of the equipment that a lot of the strength conditioning, physical performance coaches in the UK will use for golf. So we've got here we've got an isometric rig that measures mid-thigh strength. So it measures strength. So the athlete on the force plates there pushes against that bar really hard isometrically, and it gives a measure of strength. And the force plates on here, you'll have seen them before, are looking more at power. So it's looking how high are they jumping, and that gives you an idea, an estimation of rate of force development, like I mentioned to you guys before, and also power. So a lot of the physical performance coaches that are working a lot in golf, especially here in the UK, maybe in Spain as well, are using these types of technologies to measure strength and power.
So I think that if we measure strength and power on badminton players, it's gonna be like a big difference between the right side than the left side if you're a right player, because we have like a really difference of like the muscles and everything. I feel like most of the badminton players have like more bigger and stronger side than the other one. So what do you think about that?
Good question, Alicia. Great question. So, as part of my case study report for my UKCA accreditation, working with the golfer, the elite golfer that I worked with, I also reported strength with the isometric mid thigh pull. This is that one on the left with the male, and then I also reported power, but I also had a brief look at imbalances as well, because golf is very actually similar to badminton in that it's one-sided, so only one side of the body actually rotates. So tennis, badminton, football, soccer, golf, one-sided sport. So you're right, but from the research that we've seen, and from my experiences working with the golfer when I worked with her, um, actually these imbalances aren't too much of an issue. And actually, bilaterally on both legs, we can still get a good measure of strength. What we could do is actually get them maybe doing a single legged hop or get them
Okay,
doing a unilateral exercise on the isometric rig over there that just measures strength in one leg so we can see the differences between both legs. But actually, doing it bilaterally gives us a good idea overall of what the athlete uh, capabilities are in terms of strength and power bilaterally,
perfect.
both
Yeah,
legs.
okay.
Good question. You tested me there, Alicia. I think I've done okay.
Yeah.
So here you can see on the graph, I think this is a nice graph, and hopefully you guys will relate to this and be able to understand it. You can see some of the metrics that we've got here in terms of what we just talked about, really, Alicia, in terms of power, rate of force development, jump impulse, and
Okay,
what's its association and its relationship with club head speed. So when these items or these parameters improved, i.e., your jumping, or just not really improved, that's the wrong way of putting it. But in terms of its association and its relationship, power, upper body explosive strength, upper body strength were well associated with club head speed. And club head speed, I can tell you from the research where there's a significant amount, and from my own work with the golfer, is almost has a linear association with carry distance. So getting that ball in golf as far as you can is really important in golf. So if you can improve your club head speed, then inevitably you're going to be able to get that ball a further distance. So what this is basically showing and what I'm trying to tell you is in golf, if you can improve your power, rate of force development, and strength in the lower legs in the upper body, you're basically going to be able to improve your carry distance, your
okay.
distance in which you can get the ball to. So now you're probably thinking, oh, Idrees, you're going a bit over time here. What's this got to do with badminton? I'm going to show you in the next slide.
Okay. And what is the, I mean, like the same thing of the term of club head speed to, I mean, in terms of
In badminton,
badminton? Yeah.
racket head speed.
Oh,
Racket head
okay,
speed.
okay, yeah. Now I
That
get
would
it.
be the
Okay.
yeah. It's a good question. Absolutely, that would be the equivalent. But as I said to you, but just wait, because that's golf. So if you think
Okay.
about golf as a sport, does golf have an opponent in front of you? Does golf have a net in front of them?
It has a hole, I think,
It has a
but
hole
nothing else.
very far away. Has some
Yeah,
crowds, maybe a very far distance, but golf players don't have an opponent on the other side of them, do they?
yeah, that's
Do they?
true.
Do they? Is
No,
there a net?
no, maybe
No.
they don't.
Okay. So, like we said before, in badminton, we have a net and we have an opponent. So, unlike golf, the distance the shuttlecock travels in badminton is not as important. You don't have to hit that shuttlecock. You might do it as a fun game with the players, and they might have a few of the athletes or the junior players messing around trying to hit the shuttlecock really far. But in actual badminton, you don't have to hit the shuttlecock really far, do you? That's not the
No,
aim of the
not
game.
really.
No.
Not really. No. If you hit it too hard, you're gonna go outside. So
You're gonna go out. So it's not the
yeah.
same. It's a different constraints, different sport. So shuttlecock speed, like with golf, is no doubt one factor. Being able to hit the shuttlecock fast, no doubt, is important. It's important in badminton. If you can smash it fast, you reduce the amount of time that the opponent has. But it's not the only thing.
Yeah.
I think I've put it in a nice way here, so I'll read it off the screen. But speed without accuracy is potentially limiting, and no understanding or awareness of the trade-off between the two is potentially more so. So you've got shuttlecock speed, you've got speed, but if you've got no accuracy, if you're driving a car and you're driving a car really fast, but you've got no control, then you've got
That
then
doesn't
it's
matter. Yeah.
then it doesn't matter. Absolutely, Alicia. And driving, a bit like badminton, like I said in my first slide, driving is dynamic, especially if you're in a busy road in Madrid, in Barcelona, in London, you're trying to drive around, there's going to be lots of cars. If you start driving really quickly, you're going to lose control. And it's the same in badminton, you know, when you've got an opponent with you playing doubles, you've got two players on the other side, things are moving very quickly, and the shuttlecock is a very light implement as well, and it moves quickly, so you have to, it's very dynamic. So speed is important, but as you can see from this photo here, accuracy as well is important. And there is
Yeah.
potentially, from my research, from what I'm about to show you, a trade-off between the two, between speed and accuracy. So I'm going to go through this. I don't want to make it really sciencey and technical, but speed accuracy trade-off first came about in 1954 from a chap. So this is from my PhD research from Loughborough, from a chap
Okay.
called Paul Fitz. So Paul, or Dr. Fitz, I think, Paul Fitz's initial research looked at a hand stylus. So you can see the gentleman over there sitting on a chair, and he's doing a tapping task. And what this is all about is the size of the targets, the width, and also it's called A amplitude, but that just means distance between the targets. So as part of Paul Fitz's initial task or experiment in 1954, as part of speed accuracy trade-off, he created an experiment where the participants had to perform this type of task, but in different conditions. So what happened was the width of the target either got bigger or it got smaller, or the distance between the targets increased or got closer. Make
Okay. Yeah.
sense? So basically, what this graph on the right shows is as the index of difficulty, and all that I said I wasn't going to make it technical, all that means is as the width decreases, gets smaller, and as the distance increases, the difficulty becomes greater. If you're trying to tap a pen or a stylus to a small target, it's going to become more harder, isn't it? So
Yeah.
try
Yeah.
and
Of
think,
course.
and hopefully your viewers will think, okay, how does that relate to badminton? So what this graph is showing is as the index of difficulty, as the width of the target decreases, and the distance between the targets increases, the difficulty, the amount of time it takes to be able to tap the pen will increase. You're going to take more time to be able to hit a target. If you're going to hit it accurately, you're going to have to take more time to be able to do it. If the targets are close together and they're really big, you could do it very quickly. But if that target size decreases and they become really far apart, you become a lot slower.
Yeah. So I think I understand this. Like when you're playing a match in badminton and you're trying to hit the shuttle just right on the line, it gets really hard. So that's what you're trying to say, right?
Yeah, you've pretty much done the job for me there, Lisa.
I'm sorry.
Basically, if you're just trying to think about it almost as trying to hit the line, how hard is it to hit the line every time? And that's absolutely speed accuracy trade-off. Really good example. You've done a far better job than me. That's it.
Thank you.
So happy to share this again with you, Alicia and Samuel. So this is a presentation that's already on YouTube that I did for the International Society of Biomechanics, the International Society of Biomechanics and Sport. So the presentation's on YouTube. So this was all my research on speed accuracy trade-off in the badminton smash, looking at world championship standard athletes. And I'm going to show you that experimentation in the next few slides, or that test that we did. So this, in abundance, in essence, is my PhD study. This is what we did at the Glasgow World Championships in 2017. If you remember, Victor Axelsen won the 2017 men's singles that year, beat Lindan. I met him. I had a nice selfie and stuff like that. So it's
Oh
my
my God, that's
opportunity.
great.
Yeah, it was a hero of mine growing up. So it was one of his last tournaments. So it was really nice to get that opportunity.
I want to see that. I want to see that picture of you. You have to be like a really big smile.
I didn't have a very big smile. I had an overgrown mustache, and I was absolutely exhausted because we went for 5 hours from Loughborough, which is in the Midlands of the UK, all the way up north to Glasgow. I know that probably sounds nothing. It sounds quite pathetic, but it was a long journey. And the snapshot that I've got with him, not falling asleep, but I look very tired. I've not got a massive grin, but it was just nice to meet him. It was great to meet
Yeah,
Lindan
it's
and
great. It's a great
all the players.
experience. Yeah.
So we had, I think I can tell you this, over there on the right side. So we were testing on this court over here. Can you see my cursor?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, we
So
can. Yeah.
these are all the 3D cameras, 3D motion
Okay.
capture cameras around the
Okay.
Bádminton court. Okay, so wait, sorry. Um, Around the Bádminton court, they're taking the motion capture. They're creating the 3D image. And then on the other side of the court, we were really lucky because this is the training courts just outside where the actual venue where they were playing the tournament. And on the right hand side, the Chinese team were training on the other side, just next to us. So that's where I met Lindan and a few of the other players. So yeah, really
Wow.
amazing experience. But this is our testing session. And then this is the bit that I introduced. So this initially came from my supervisor, Mark, who you can see there, from his initial work in cricket, and Paul's as well. And actually, there's another famous face, Anthony Clark from the UK, mixed doubles champion. So I'll give him a bit of a shout. You from the UK. So he was helping us with the testing. But Mark's initial research used the motion capture cameras to look at cricket. So we use the same technology to look at badminton as well. So another element on the other side of the court, which you'll see in a minute, there's a target. So this is the bit that came from my idea, from my research, and with my other supervisor, Mike Hiley as well. We came with it up with an idea to, okay, we've looked a lot at ball speed in cricket, there's all the stuff in golf, but actually have we looked at the trade-off between speed and accuracy? So that's why we use a target system to look at that as well. So here we go. This is the testing. This is what it looked like. Hopefully it'll go.
Okay.
That's the shuttlecock machine on the left side. So we use that to standardize it so it's the same for each player.
Ahí va. Ya.
And that's it. That was our testing. That's
Okay.
how we did it. That's how we
And
collected the data.
he is the skeleton that we saw before, right? Okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
That's a
Yeah.
skeleton, yeah. Here's how we collected the data. So the 3D motion capture cameras, to be able to collect it, what we do is we put reflective markers on different joint centers of the body. And what the motion capture cameras do is they capture those reflections on the body. And what we
Okay.
also did was put reflective tape on the shuttlecock and on the racket. So that's how we can see the shuttle, the body, and the racket.
Oh, perfect.
So we've got some results here. So all this is showing is that, surprise, surprise, this is going to happen a few times now in the next few minutes. But the group, so I did something called a cluster analysis to see if there was any differences, were certain groups of players using a certain trade-off in terms of speed and accuracy. So what we found is, I don't know if inevitably is the right word, but unsurprisingly, what we found is the group that used the speed accuracy trade-off that was in Fitz's research, in his initial research in 1954, they were pretty much the best because they reduced their speed, their movement time to be more accurate. Whereas this group in green here on the accuracy score that you can see here, they didn't reduce their time. They tried smashing it faster when the size of the target got smaller. So we said to them, look, smash it as fast as you can to a big target for around 10 to 13 trials. And then for the second condition, we said to them, smash it as fast as you can, but to a small target. So the group
Okay.
in blue here, they reduced their shuttle speed and they were more accurate. Whereas the group in green here, when the target got smaller, they actually smashed it faster and they were less accurate. So the group that used Fitz's principle of speed accuracy trade-off and reduced their movement speed when the target got smaller, they outperformed. They did better. And that's in abundance what we saw. There's a slight caveat here. So the group in blue, like I'm about to show you now, they were higher ranked, first of all. The group in blue were of a higher ranking in terms of world rankings.
Okay.
But the group in orange were slightly below on average on ranking.
And why is that?
So I'll show you that in the next slide in a second. But they were nearly as accurate as the group in blue. You can see they're not too far off. But what
Yeah.
they did, interestingly, and this goes in line with a lot of the research in speed axis trade-off from other sports like volleyball and volleyball spiking and so on, the tennis serve, is that they were actually as fast as the group in green, but they were still nearly able to be get nearly to be able to get. They were nearly as speak proper English, Idrees. They were nearly as accurate as the group in blue. Interesting. So now let's look at what the construction, like you were saying, Alicia, of the players in those groups. So what we can see is that I call it the FIR, so the fits inverse relationship, the group that used fits, were mainly comprised of women's doubles players, interestingly, or maybe not so interesting in terms of this particular task that they had to do for the our experiment, for our experimental design. They were higher ranked. So on average, had a ranking of 65. Like I said, they were mainly women's doubles players. You can see some of the ages on average. This is all in the research paper as well. I can share that with you, the research paper that I wrote on.
And these are the players of the blue group, or
Yes.
okay,
Sorry, you're right. That's one thing I could have maybe done is just color code them a bit better. Sorry about that. But yeah,
oh, it's
they're
okay,
in
it's
the
okay.
blue group. This is the orange group, so the LIR group that I'm showing you now. So
Okay,
they were ranked slightly lower in an average of 71 uh, for that group in terms of ranking. Interestingly, though, they were mainly comprised of men's doubles players and men's singles players,
okay,
which kind of makes sense because they're smashing faster, but they're nearly as accurate. They're still accurate. Whereas we can see this alternate inverse relationship group, so they're doing the opposite. The target's getting bigger and the target's getting smaller and they're still smashing fast.
yeah,
Um, they did have, if I can find my cursor, have a lower ranking of 91 on average. So you can see from around 30 to 277 in the world.
okay,
And they were a mixed bag of different disciplines. So that's that. Hopefully you find that interesting. Obviously, it's I have to mention with caution here because yes, the research is useful, and sometimes you take some of the learnings from research and you can utilize it. But if you look at the way our study is set up, we've got a target board. You don't have a target board in badminton. You don't have reflective markers on the body, and you don't have a shuttlecock machine. So we
yeah,
did that to
okay,
keep our test fair for each participant because that's research. You have to do that. But that doesn't mean that what we found is exactly right. Some of it might be of potential use and might be something that you should consider, but don't take it for word of mouth. And that's me saying that as an academic and as a part of my role as an academic and a researcher as well. So don't always take it as granted. But it's certainly useful and something interesting. The one thing that is interesting from it is that this could potentially, from my research, and we're working on this and looking at it now for the next bit of research that we're doing with Hawkeye, that I'll come on to in a minute, is that this model, this performance assessment model with a target, could potentially be used for you guys in Tenerife with some of your players. It's very easy to get a target board on the floor and just make a few notes on the players to see how they're performing. Are they quite
okay,
accurate? Are they hitting in the center of the target? Are they getting zeros, ones, twos, threes? It's very easy to do that. And from a development level to on other side of the spectrum to a performance consideration, like you saw with golf with the isometric mid thigh pull and with the force plates where they're jumping, this could potentially be used, and they're looking at this potentially now with a new tennis project at Loughborough as well, which is preceding my research. It could potentially be used to look at how good each athlete is in terms of their speed axis trade-off. Are they in that top group? Are they showing traits of Paul Fitz's early research from 1954? Are they able to adapt to the target, or do they actually smash it faster? Are they not able to adapt? So it's potentially of use for on a development level for you guys to easily get a target board out and score accuracy for each of your players, or maybe on an elite level. So yeah, like I was saying, this could potentially be used as a performance assessment tool in development centres, for example, in Tenerife with you guys at badminton, local badminton clubs, you can very easily get a small size target. But equally, on the other side of the spectrum, working with elite badminton players, this type of technology is already being used and potentially can be used to measure speed accuracy trade-off of elite badminton players. So, brief overview of the results, like we said before. The fits inverse relationship group, the blue group in that box plot that I
Okay.
showed you earlier, they were the best group because they use Fitz's speed accuracy trade-off that we talked about before. The low inverse relationship group that used a similar trade-off, but they were faster than the Fitz inverse relationship group. Um, they had on average a faster maximum shuttlecock speed. So what that shows is that potentially, what the bit I've got here is that you can still smash close to your maximum, but still be as accurate. So you don't
Okay.
necessarily
Yeah,
in hit
interesting.
in it because remember, Paul. It's like I mentioned with everything. Paul Fitz's initial task was uh, a manual tapping task with a stylus. That was initial. That's not the same as badminton. Like golf isn't the same as badminton. That stylus hitting task isn't the same as badminton either. So badminton, you've got to intercept the shuttlecock. It's different. So what is showing is this is similar with the research in volleyball spiking as well by a researcher called Ettimer, who's done a lot of work in speed accuracy trade-off, is that elite athletes, the best athletes, they can actually get close to their maximum speed but still be able to smash accurately. So the key message is from my research, reducing shuttlecock speed to 80 to 99% of maximum. If you go over that 100%, that's when your accuracy will start to fade. It'll
Yeah,
worsen.
yeah.
But if you keep within this range between 80 to 99%, that will more likely than not, from the research, what we found, increase your spatial accuracy. Your accuracy will get better. And then key message for coaches: coaches should aim to constrain their targets. So if you're on the coaching courts, if you're working with athletes, yeah, definitely use cones or use flat discs, flat targets, but play around with or manipulate the size of those targets as well. So have big targets to start off with maybe a novice and a new player, but then decrease the size of that target, that flat disc target, like we've got in this picture here. When the athletes or the players you're working with, they improve and get better. That
So,
make sense?
yeah, I have a question. So, do you think it's better
Okay.
to have a flat object or another thing? Because I usually, when I train my students, I put like cones, but they have like they're high from the ground. Like they can see it like more easily. So, do you think it's better if it's flat?
Well, I suggested that and lead on to it. And it's funny you asked that question, Alicia. Again, you've given some fantastic questions so far. The other part of this research was actually looking at tubes. We're actually looking at tubes as a
Yeah,
target,
yeah,
shuttlecock
that's
tube.
what we use.
So,
Yeah.
as one of the conditions, we also had tubes on top of this flat target as well.
Okay.
And what we found really briefly, because we've got to move on to other stuff as well, is that when we use the tubes, actually what we saw was that the players were still able to be accurate, but their speed on average was actually higher when they were using the tubes in comparison to the flat disc. So if you're wanting the players still to, this is my opinion, if you're wanting the players to still maintain their speed, but you want a target there, and another point to that is if the player is new as well, then maybe tubes might be a good idea because it
Okay.
helps with angle of the smash. Because a
Yeah.
flat
Yeah.
target is very low down. And for someone who is a young player, a junior player that is shorter in stature, and we found this with some of the female athletes because they were generally the female athletes that we looked at, not all of them, obviously there's different heights and sizes, but what we saw was that when the target was elevated in higher, they found it a lot more easier to smash. And it's a similar story with junior players as well. If that target is raised, it could potentially alleviate any issues with angle because
Okay.
it helps with that. But on the flip side, on the other side, a flat target is more representative, it's more alike to actual badminton.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
this is my advice to you, but then you've also got to look at the players that you have there in Tenerife and then use your ideas and use this knowledge for your coaching. So it's what you see as coaches, but based on the information I've given you.
Okay.
Make sense?
Yeah, perfectly.
Great. Um, so we've got here. So we're going back. Yeah, we mentioned Alicia there about technique. So this is it. So my question to you, the audience, the viewers, and this is what is the debate within the research at the moment as well. Is there actually an optimal technique for the badminton smash? So, like with some of the cricket fast bowlers, they talk about Malinga, for example, who plays for Sri Lanka. He's got a bowling action that comes out from over here. He bowls it like that. But he's one of the best, he has been one of the best fast bowlers in the world. But his technique
Yeah.
isn't typically what you'd see. There's some badminton players as well out there that have maybe slightly different. I can think of some top badminton players that are out there who've got slightly different techniques, not your typical technique, but they're still very good at smashing. So this is a typical technical model from my thesis again of what a smash would be. And I'll just run through this really quickly. So preparation phase, racket foot plant, force weight transferred through the racket foot plant, center of mass shifts downwards to the sagittal plane, triple extension, ankle, knee, and hip, flight phase. I could go on and on. It's a lot of information to process. As a biomechanist, as a researcher, it's useful because you can go through the movement and then you can examine exactly what's happening with the center of mass, what's happening with the forces in the ground, what's happening at the joint angles. For a biomechanist, for a sports scientist, a researcher, that information is useful. But for coaches and for badminton players,
It's too much. Yeah.
it's too much. It's too much
Yeah, it's too
information to
much.
absorb. You've got to hit the thing as well. You've got to hit it. You've got to play. So this is just too much to absorb, I think. Again.
So, wait, we
The-
have a question first.
Yeah, go for it.
The
Can you
next,
go back to the
Yeah.
other slide?
I think a question about the last image. What is the difference you realize smash in this position in front of your body to above your head? Because more people realize smash here in this position and not in front of your body.
I understand. So I'm going to show you some slides from some of the latest research from last year from some colleagues and from people who've worked with me in the past as well. So they talk about exactly what you're talking about, and they talk about very specific technical, what we call technical parameter, Samuel, in that elbow extension at that contact point can't be too straight. It's got to be slightly flexed. I'll come on to that in a minute. But I think what you're asking about is where's the contact point? Is it in front of you? Is it above you?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yes, exactly.
So typically from the research and from what's been done before, what I've been coached by elite coaches, you want to try and make contact with that shuttlecock as at higher point as possible. You don't want it to drop too far down. So we want to try and aim to get that shuttlecock at the top of the racket frame. We don't want it to go too low down or towards the center of the racket. We want to hit it at the highest point. That's what we normally coach at the highest point. But this goes back to what I just said. If it becomes too technical and we're talking about impact location on the racket face, you say, "Oh, you've got to get your shuttlecock impact with the racket face at just a millimeter below every time." That's very difficult information to absorb. So you've got to think about your coaching phrases, hitting it at the highest point. Sometimes that can be as an effective coaching phrase and intervention as anything.
Yeah, and it simplifies all the things that you could do or you could say. Two, you have to focus on this. Like you have to the highest you can hit. That's the great point. Yeah.
It's a cue. Yeah, you're right. But that might just come back to some of the stuff I'm going to go on to in a second anyway. So great questions, but bear with me. So again, is information on specific joint angles? Again, this is what the contemporary, the new research is talking about now. Is it all about joint angles? What's the ideal joint angle for shuttle contact? Does the elbow need to be flexed? Does it need to be at 10 degrees? Does it need to be at 5 degrees? In start position, do we need to have 90 degrees knee flexion? Does the elbow need to be pronated? Is information on specific joint angles really that useful? If I tell your players, the juniors that you coach, or I tell you, Samuel, you need to have your elbow at 20 degrees at shuttle contact, that's going to be very difficult to visualize. So
Yeah.
we may be finding significant findings in the research in terms of this is the average joint angle for a group of 10 to 15 players. But don't forget that we're averaging that result across all the players. So there's going to be standard, there's going to be variation between those players. So how accurate that joint angle that the research is recommending is a bit cagey, a bit iffy. So this is a current debate. There's some arguing that it's not that valuable. It can be done a different way. And some people are arguing that actually having some information on joint angles will help improve your technique. People will have different opinions. Coaches will have different opinions on this. My opinion is that information like this is useful if we can understand if there are some differences between players that are more successful in terms of their speed and accuracy when they're using a different range of joint
Okay.
angles. But going so specific into what the exact joint angle is, i.e., 227 degrees or 100 degrees, I think is too much.
So I think the in my opinion too, the best option is to give maybe to your players like a few phases so they can try every of them and then they can choose which one did work most, so maybe you can say like no, like you have to have your elbow in a 90 degree, not that, but just like maybe just put it higher or medium and lower, so maybe you can simplify that all of that information into something that they could understand better.
Yeah, so that's lead on to the next few slides now. Maybe I need to hurry up a bit. Um, is something called skill acquisition and motor learning. What types of skill acquisition techniques or methods can we introduce into our coaching? So what I used when I was working with Campbell, the national para badminton player who's now,
Yeah, yeah.
kudos to me and her, is triple champion, mixed doubles, women's doubles, and singles, current singles national champion. Is I use something called the constraints-led approach. There's what you were talking about, Alicia, was a really nice coaching technique about autonomy, giving players the freedom
Yeah.
to choose which technique they use once you've given a few examples. So there are different theoretical frameworks. So this moves from biomechanics, very maths, physics based, to more psychology, more about the mind. How
Okay.
does the mind work? But also about motor learning. How does the mind connect with the body? And what techniques and what methods, coaching methods, can we use to improve that interaction of motor learning of the mind and the body? And that's what I'm going to talk about. So this is again coaching technique. Here's me asking you guys again some rhetorical questions. So this is some of the latest research from 2024 um, from my supervisor. He worked with the Malaysian badminton team. So this is some elite Malaysian badminton players. So they've shown exactly what we were talking about before, Samuel, that smaller elbow extension at contact has been shown to be a common predictor of faster smash speeds in tennis and in badminton. But this is exactly what we've just spoken about. How useful and easy is it to coach these types of technical parameters, especially something at shuttle contact? If you're working with an elite player who's smashing it at around 300 kilometers an hour, to be able to coach a technical refinement in the elbow at something that is moving so quickly is quite a difficult thing to do. So how useful is this actually in real life? And actually, is it useful coaching it just in isolation? So just concentrating on shuttle contact, will the player get distracted? Will they forget about what they need to do in the start phase? Will they forget about what they need to do in terms of rotation? Will they forget about how to hit the thing? So a few things to think about. This is a mechanic. I said I was going to move on to some of the skill acquisition. I will do, but this is a biomechanical principle that we know is something that is a bit like Fitt's law, speed accuracy trade-off. It's a scientific principle. Moment of inertia has been used for the last 50, 60, 70 years in applied sport. Diving is an example of that. So just have a quick look at this video. What do you think, Alicia Samuel? What is the diver going to do next? What's his next movement going to be?
Right now,
Yeah. After he's done the flip, what's it going to be, you think?
I don't know. But
Any
I
minute?
think it's gonna be like he's gonna keep like again.
How do you think the diver moves faster through the air?
I think when if he, I don't know how to say it. He pulls his legs up, maybe like he reduce the body. You know what I
Inertia.
mean?
Yeah, that's it. He
Yeah,
scrunches up into a little fur
yeah,
ball,
exactly,
a
exactly.
little a ball. He scrunches up. His legs come up to his body. His arms come up to his body. So he starts off very big, and then he becomes very small. So you're
Okay.
absolutely right, Alicia, and this is to do with exactly that physics principle of moment of inertia. The swimmer, the elite diver, if they want to move quickly through the air, they reduce their inertia by bringing their body part and segments closer together. Samuel's looking at me now. Well, where's Idrees going with this? But I'm going with it. Just bear with me. But if they want to control their movement in the air and they want to go a bit slower, i.e., as they're just coming off the board, then they extend, they bring their arms further out. So this is the principle in essence. It's with figure skaters as well. So skaters on the ice skaters on the ice.
Yeah, yeah.
When they want to control their movement, they bring their arms out. But when they want to, yeah,
When they
they
yeah.
come closer in and they spin faster. So this is the physics principle, the biomechanical principle of moment inertia. So rather than some of the research which is focusing solely on just joint angles, or what's the secret angle of the elbow, what's the secret angle of the shoulder for the smash, maybe another way of doing it. Not saying that it's not the right way. You know, there's certainly information that we
Another
can get,
one, yeah.
but maybe we can base some of our research more on physics principles like Fitt's law, Paul Fitz's law on speed extra, like moment of inertia. And maybe we could do the same for the badminton smash. So this, I said I was going to bring up some other influences. So very lucky to work with one of the lead strength and conditioning coach for England golf. That's how I met the athlete that I worked with. Some of the golf stuff that I showed you before. This is some of the work I did with the Lawns Tennis Association, who are closely related to Wimbledon that you see on the TV at the moment. So this is something that I took from them. And when I was working as a strength and conditioning coach with county and national level tennis, one of the things that we did as a group, as a tennis S&C Strength and Conditioning Society, was monitor and look at movement in terms of shapes. So what shapes are being used in the body, i.e. in the start position, have we got more of a kind of a, I don't know what you call that, like a stick figure with a leg? Have we got in the move position more of a triangle? And what we
Okay.
did as S&C coaches, when we taught movement patterns like the squat, like the lunge, we looked to see if we could see these shapes with our eyes. So here's something that you guys will recognize from the Bádminton family. I know you've seen that YouTube video before.
Yeah.
So this is can you remind me of his name?
Thomas.
Thomas Samuel. So Thomas in this episode of the Bádminton family is looking specifically at the elbow, interestingly. So he's looking at what the elbow is doing in the overhead smash and what position it needs to be in. Now, thinking back to what you guys saw before in terms of the diver with the moment of inertia,
Yeah.
do you think, and Thomas shows this in the video, but Thomas shows in the video on the Bádminton family an overhead smash with no bent elbow. So just like that. Overhead smash with no bent elbow. Then he
Okay.
shows an overhead smash with a bent elbow. So thinking back to the physics concept of moment of inertia, do you think the arm, the rotation of the arm, the supination, the pronation, the elbow, the shoulder extension, elevation, shoulder elevation, do you think it's going to be able to move quicker through the air using a no elbow bend or no elbow bend or with elbow bend? So is there less inertia with the elbow bent or is there
Yeah.
less inertia with the elbow not bent?
Oh, with the elbow blend. Yeah.
With the elbow bent, absolutely. So if Thomas's arm here from the Bádminton family wasn't bent and it was more like that, there would be more inertia. There'd be more resistance to the arm. But
And it will
because
be
the elbow
slower
is,
too, right?
sorry,
It will be slower too.
it would be slower. It would be slower. So you wouldn't be able to transfer that energy from the kinematic chain as effectively with a non-bent arm, and the rotation of the arm, the rotation of the joint angle, and the rotational velocity, i.e., speed, would not be as fast. So to what Thomas is doing inadvertently, actually talks about, what's he saying, this foreshot biomechanics. He's actually thinking about biomechanics, but I think he probably knows. They've probably got some, sports scientists in Denmark that probably told, if you bend your
Yeah.
elbow over here, your arm will get quicker. So inadvertently, what he's doing is he's using those biomechanical principles or that biomechanical principle of moment of inertia by bending his elbow. You can see me in the video screen doing this, but I'm going to show you some photographs of how I did it and how I coach Campbell, the para athlete. And what have I done here in terms of coaching techniques? Some inspiration from the LTA, from the Lawn Tennis Association, looking at shapes. So what shape is it creating? Is it creating, from my eyes, that L shape?
Okay. Yeah, I can see that.
So we talked about coaching techniques and skill acquisition. So what is skill acquisition and motor learning first? So skill acquisition and motor learning is the learning of a skill. How do we learn a skill? How do we coordinate the body segments with the central nervous system from brain activity to be able to coordinate our segments and movement to be able to perform a skill? The ability to do that is skill acquisition and motor learning. There are various skill acquisition. I've given you guys a nice little diagram here on the right that I used to show and I still do in
Yeah.
guest lectures, all my students. There are various skill acquisition and motor learning frameworks commonly utilized by coaches to help improve or refine an athlete's technique. So one we've already discussed, Fitts law and the speed accuracy trade-off. You've mentioned one already with autonomy from the
Yeah.
optimal theory,
Okay.
focus attention. So feel free for you guys or your viewers to go away and do some further reading into these. The one I'm going to talk to you about is ecological dynamics and constraints-led approach and how I use that with the para athlete that I worked with. So constraints theory or constraints-led approach is an example of one of these frameworks and is a popular tool or method used by sports coaches and professional teams from around the world. It has substantial scientific evidence base behind its use as to rationale why we use it. So what is the constraints theory? It was theorized by Carl Newell in 1986 in his early work looking at child and the infant development process. So he's looking at how toddlers moved and what was their coordination patterns. That's how this early research in terms of constraints began. Newell's, and now obviously from toddlers, it's now being used at Premier League football clubs, Manchester United, Fabian Otter at Liverpool Football Club. It's now been used all around the world in various different sports.
Okay.
So Newell's key contribution to motor control uh, and learning, even inadvertently, sports coaching and pedagogy, is this notion. Sorry, I've just read off the screen there, which you should never do. But his key contribution, Newell's, was that constraints guide and shape our movement. So you can ask me now, what are constraints? So Carl Newell was looking at the different constraints that toddlers, that childs and infants had within their environment to be able to perform a movement. He
Okay.
proposed a triad of interactive constraints. Individual, organismic, how tall are you? How much do you weigh? What's your body shape? Environment, is it sunny? Is it a hard floor? Is it a carpet? Is it windy? And then finally, the task. Is the toddler trying to get a ball? Is the toddler trying to get a hat? Is there a sofa behind them? These are the three constraints argued by Carl Newell and the ecological dynamics framework in terms of the constraints that potentially and do from the substantial research and evidence base that guide and shape our movement. Hopefully that made some sense. We're going to move a bit quicker because time is of the essence. So we've got constraints that approach from Carl Newell. Here's some of the other books and texts around the constraints that approach, some of the key researchers in the area. What is the constraints that approach? Please refer to my slides. And then the art of the CLA. We've got to have empathy. We've got to be able to communicate, and we've got to be able to lead when we're doing this. And when we're coaching using the constraints that approach, what we're doing is we're facilitating. We're facilitating an environment. We're not being really explicit saying, your elbow's got to be in this position. Your arm's got to be at 90 degrees. You have to be doing this. We're a bit more implicit. What we do is ecological practitioners, like using the ecological framework, is that we design the environment and then we let the athletes flourish in that environment by changing task constraints like the target, like the tram lines, instructions for what the players have to do. We then let the players flourish, and then we let them develop, coordinate their movements in that environment. So less explicit, you do this, you do that, more here's the arena, here's the coaching practice, this is what you do. That's what constraints-led approach is all about. Here's some of the science and the evidence base behind it. So it's been done in the Lawns Tennis Association project looking at mini tennis. I know they do a lot of that in Spain as well. Been done in rugby as well, looking at different constraints between defenders. And here you go. You've got the triad from Carl Newell: environment, task, organism, and then it's all about how your athletes, the people you're working with, your students, your juniors, they perceive that information, then they act based on the environment, their individual characteristics, their height, their weight, the different the different constraints to be able to produce those movement goals. So some examples: mini tennis, making things a bit smaller for smaller athletes, small-sided games, small-sided rugby, etc., etc. So Campbell, you want to see some coaching interventions, Alicia? I'll show you them. So here's Campbell with a constraints-led approach in badminton. Not the smash, but actually looking at a footwork one. I'll show you the smash one in a second. So just have a quick look at this using task constraints in terms of cones. So this is looking at footwork. So it's all about staying low on the ground to start off with, and then high zone and coming up. So we've got
getting down low now, getting down low. That's it, better, lower base. Good, get down low. Low zone, quicker.
So the aim of that constraints-led practice was for Campbell just to hit above the cone. And by doing that, by hitting just above the cone, she was getting in a good position in terms of being low down. Her center of mass was lower down and hitting lower down. So that was an example of me not telling her directly, but using a task constraint to try and support that movement goal. Make sense?
Yeah, we understand.
So just have a look at this. So this is Campbell, who I've spoken to you about before. This is when Campbell first started off at the GB camp in Sheffield. This is where we were. This is her overhead technique. I'll show you
Okay.
one. And just to be fair, the opponent on the other side is ranked number 1 in her classification. So Campbell was completely new to the sport. She came from a swimming background as a national swimmer, but no badminton experience at all. After a year and a bit of training, hard work, and graft, this is where we got to. So again, thinking back to some of those key principles in terms of shapes. So this is not the shape we're looking for in the overhead technique. No.
Yeah, exactly.
So this is me. I had a trip yesterday to my old sports centre, from when I used to train 20 years ago. And I've got some examples of the constraints-led practice that I did with Campbell. So this is exactly what I did. So I found a line, a tram line on the floor. I had the line in line with my feet, so where my the base of my foot is. So in line with my I forgot the name, the bony bit over there, the malleolus at the bottom. I'm using that tram line, and then what the constraint I'm using is, rather than telling Campbell to get her elbow at 90 degrees, bend your elbow, or say anything, all I'm saying is bring your elbow behind that tram line.
Okay.
That's your technique. And the other reason for doing this is because this is the start of the movement. Rather than saying, oh, you've got elbow flexion at the shuttle contact point, thinking back to the start of my presentation on the kinetic chain, energy transfers, if you can get a technical parameter or technique or joint angle sorted at the start of a movement, that will help with transfer of energy up the body to shuttle contact. So what I've done is I've got her in the right position to start off with. And what else is it involving and has a thought process behind? Moment of inertia, because her elbow is automatically coming together. So she's not thinking, oh, my elbow's at 13 degrees, or I have to bend my elbow. She doesn't have to think, just get your elbow behind that line.
Yeah, and it's more easy. Yeah, it's really interesting.
And that is use of the third thing. So you've got 2 things there. The third thing is it's using a task constraint, part of Carl Newell's constraints-led approach.
Okay.
See if you can spot it. See if you can spot the improvement. Have a look at this, using constraints-led approach. Watch her, watch her. You guys are the coaches now, watch her. Do you see that?
Yeah, that's another thing. Oh, there's a big difference, right?
Yes.
Yeah, that was the video, Samuel Alicia, in terms of Campbell's movement, utilizing that technique with the elbow that I talked about with you guys, and the different principles, moment of inertia, reducing the angle in the elbow, and then things to do with the kinetic and the kinematic chain and transfer of energy. So you guys, you might have tried, or you were asking me before, Samuel. And I was just having to think about what's the best way of positioning the players that you're coaching, the junior players, to stand side on rather than square on. You were asking me. So actually, this constraints practice that I did with Campbell, it not only helps with the elbow, but it also helps with standing side on, because they have to stand on that line, so the position is
Okay.
already there. But like I mentioned to you guys before, we've also, going back to the LTA, the Lawns Tennis Association shapes, photos and diagrams that I showed you. You can see clearly here in some of the still photos that I've got of Campbell. You can see that L shape that I referred back to last time in the YouTube video from Bádminton Family from Thomas, where we saw that L shape that we were looking for. So as coaches, as mentors, when we're working with junior athletes or players, can we see those key shapes? And with Campbell, I mean, before, you can remember what it was like when I had the red lines on. She was basically standing square on and just like tapping it like that. Now you can see her legs are in a great position. So we have the shapes on the lower legs near where the thighs are. You can see that that Campbell's lower legs are in a good position. And then, like I mentioned before, with the L shape on the arms where the elbow is, it's just a really good way of monitoring the youth athletes, the junior players that you're working with, just monitoring what technique. Easier than saying, okay, yeah, I can see that the elbow is at 90 degrees. Can you see those key shapes? And that's exactly what the green lines are on there, and that on what it indicates. And yeah, obviously, what a journey in Campbell's first, real proper season in terms of playing badminton. When we started off in 2021, at the end, in 2022 or the 21-22 season, for Campbell to manage to achieve a women's doubles national title from all the hard work that we did, like I mentioned to you guys before, off air, in terms of the Monday morning or Tuesday morning training sessions at 6 o'clock in the morning when she was doing her full-time job, working in engineering, by foot, getting to the University of Bradford Sports Complex, and then doing the training sessions with me in the morning was, an incredible effort, and it showed her commitment to to training and commitment to wanting to develop and improve, and all those things put together, sticking to a training week that included badminton sessions as well as strength and conditioning, physical preparation, nutrition support, and just taking all that on board. And look at where we got and where Campbell got with her her women's doubles partner Emma Stoner there, national title with the women's doubles in 21-22, and also she got her first cap at one of the Spanish national tournaments too. So yeah, great achievement. And then yeah, I got a phone call from her, and we kept in contact. I got my new job at the University of Gloucestershire as a lecturer, but I was always on the phone with her, giving her advice and giving her a few tips on what to do. And she kept on training with the GB camp, and you can see her mixed doubles partner there on the side. So this is at the 2024 national championships in the UK. And she just went a step ahead, and she's gone above and beyond our expectations when we first sat down in a coffee shop when we first met in 2021, talking about her aims, where she wanted to get to. I mean, this was just above and beyond our wildest dreams there. So for her, she won the mixed doubles, women's doubles, and singles in that year. So yeah, we're absolutely delighted. And you can see a photo of us on the right there with one of the Scotland national GB para badminton coaches. So yeah, nice. Always like that photo. I like reminiscing back on it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, it is. It's really nice. It's a nice story. And then yeah, just to finally, just a bit about me and what I'm up to. Still continuing some of the research in terms of the Badminton World Federation, and we've just literally had some good news this morning from the BWF that both our conference abstracts have been accepted for the coaching conference over there in France. So that's absolutely amazing. This is one of the projects that we're
Yeah,
doing.
that's great. Congratulations.
Thank you, gracias, muchas gracias, Alicia. Thanks, Samuel. I really appreciate it. Yeah, I mean, wow. I mean, with Campbell, what a project that was in 21, and then the teams that we've got on this Hawkeye project, and also the Scopia review that I mentioned to you before. I mean, Mubia, and what a couple two teams in terms of applied practitioners and sports scientists and academics. They're top draw. So yeah, this is part of the abstract that we've got. Be sharing more details of that in the coming weeks once we've got confirmation from the Badminton World Federation. But this is a big data project looking at Hawkeye, which is the judging system in Wimbledon with the tennis, but also with the Badminton World Federation. And then yeah, this is what I'm up to now. My research is on the side, but I've left my lecturing job last year, and I've become a sports scientist, a strength and conditioning coach, a physical preparation coach, working with elite athletes. So there's a local cricket academy for Yorkshire cricket. Some of our county and regional players play there. I'm really working with them now as a strength conditioning coach, and with some other teams and athletes too, as part of my Synergies consultancy. Again, huge thanks for Alicia, to Alicia and Samuel for advertising that and doing it on the last webinar. I'm really looking forward to when things have settled down and we've got this done, to sharing your article as well that you did for us on JJAB with Synergies. That's going to be really cool. So I'm really looking forward to that, because it was a really good article.
Thank you.
That's okay. And then key points As I mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, the badminton smash has a sequential, so from proximal, from the big segments in the body to the smaller segments in the body. So your big muscles, your quadriceps and your legs, to maybe some of the smaller muscles in the forearm and the wrist. That energy transfers sequentially in order. That's all sequentially means, in order through a kinematic or a kinetic chain. So it's like many projectile sports, like your golf, like your tennis serve, like your volleyball spiking. So that's the key point there. And then that links into physical abilities such as strength and power are certainly important in badminton, but they're not the only factors. Like we discussed before, speed, the
Yeah.
relationship between speed and accuracy is potentially really, really important. And then Elisa, you and Samuel, you went on some great points about some of the coaching interventions that you do with smaller targets with some of the players there. So that was really cool. And thanks for that conversation. And then something a bit different in terms of key biomechanical principles, like the moment of inertia with the diver, being really big and then tucking in, can potentially, or we know that they can inform some of the technical parameters that we choose to look at in the body. So, for example, the elbow position in terms of where it is, decreasing it, so we've got less inertia. That's a physics concept, so we know that the arm is going to move quicker rather than having it out wide.
Yeah.
And then finally, which I think it was a nice way to finish off about, really making this, because at the end of the day, the audience that we're, the Badminton World Federation, if I'm doing any research or we're working with development with, some of the players that you've got in Tenerife with you guys, it's about coaching and making it coaching friendly so that players and coaches can understand what it is that we're talking about in terms of science. So the skill acquisition frameworks, like the constraints-led approach with the line and the tram lines, is a really easy thing for coaches to take on board and utilize. So having it's a powerful tool, being able to use the constraints-led approach and theories like that. But it's good to have a good understanding of how to do that and how to use the constraints-led approach and other frameworks like that in the future. So I've got some key texts and some key readings on the constraints-led approach. So happy to share that with you both as well. And then finally, I've got my references there. It's on the slide there, so please feel free to refer to some content from my thesis that I had earlier on from my PhD. And we've got some other key authors from stuff from moment of inertia, from biomechanics in fast bowling, etc., etc. Thank you very, very much, Samuel and Alicia, the whole of JJAB, all the badminton players in Tenerife for this opportunity. I've really enjoyed it. Thank you very much. Gracias.
Thank you very much, Idrees. Thank you very much for your work. I think that is very important, and in my case, when I explain smash, I think that it's very difficult explain the importance to rotate your body in this when you shuttle. And I think that when with this video the people can learn a lot of things, and I think that is a good job. Congratulations for your work.
Thank you. Gracias. I'm glad. And that's exactly what I wanted as well, is for you guys to get a bit of an understanding of some of the other stuff, some of the science that is out there, but breaking that down into key messages and key points for you to take away and work with your players on. So if you've done that and have achieved that, then that's brilliant.
Okay. It's, the smash is very simple, but when you see a detail, is impressionant when all body is necessary for realize a good smash.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what we talked about in terms of the kinetic or the kinematic chain in the body, being able to transfer energy. But that's being able to control the player and say to them, oh, you've got energy flowing through your body, is something
Yeah.
very difficult. So if you can do that in a implicit, in a subconscious way, so they're not thinking about it, using some form of a constraint, if it's them standing on a line with the elbow behind it, so they don't have to think about it, then I think then you've got opportunity to really get your players to excel and develop and improve.
Yeah, when my science teacher said that science is everywhere, now I understand it. Now I know.
Yeah, it's important.
Now,
because I think there is a balance, Alicia, between the art and the science of
Yeah.
sport. You have to be passionate, you have to be able to empathize, emotional intelligence. That's something that you can't always teach, but you can learn. But then there's also some principles, some pillars. You know, if you can keep to those principles and pillars of what you're trying to coach and keeping to the key scientific principles, scientific's a big word, but if you can keep to the things that you know about, so we know that by increasing load whilst you're doing a back squat, we know that when you're doing a bicep curl or you're doing some of your training interventions, that we're going to get stronger. That we're got sorry,
Yeah.
that's my Yorkshire accent. We're going to get stronger. If we're doing some plyometrics, we're doing some jumping. We're potentially going, or not potentially, we're going to improve our tendency. We know that from science. We know that from 10, 20 years of studies on humans from athletes. We know that that has been shown over numerous studies. So if you know that, then why not try to include that into your coaching? But then it's about, like Samuel was saying before, it's about condensing that scientific information and making it easy to understand and use for players and coaches. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Exactly. So now it's time to answer some questions. So we had a lot of them on our Instagram account, but we select 5 of them. So the first one.
This is the very important part because it's my community and it's very, very important, this question.
So
Vale, I will do a good job.
what is the best moment in a match to go for a smash? What do you think?
So I think, unfortunately, and this is probably what Fernando Rivas or any other coach will give you in terms of an answer. It depends. There's no exact answer as to, this is the ideal moment to smash. There might be more what we call in English preferential circumstances where it's a good opportunity to smash. A lot of factors are involved in that situation. What is the position of the opposition that you're playing against? What is their abilities? What are their anthropometrics? So what is their heights? What are their weights? What are their builds? And then also, what are your abilities as a player? What's the abilities potentially of your partner if you're playing doubles? Can you smash? Are you confident in your smash ability? Do you know that you can create steep angles? So it goes back to my first point of the presentation in terms of badminton is very complex. There's lots of different intricacies and lots of different things going on at the same time. Yeah, the simple answer to that is it's very dependent on your abilities and the abilities of your opponent.
Okay, perfect.
Okay. And the second one. What is the key to recovering quickly after an offensive smash?
So in the majority of shots, fortunately, in badminton, from playing myself, being coach, and then from some of the science, some of the research. A lot of the shots only require, I think, very short swings. So some of your net kills, some of your drives. If you're taking a really big swing on your drive, then it's going to take too much time, and actually the shot isn't very effective. So actually having shorter swings with that relax and then squeeze action over there will give you more time to bring your racket back closer to your center of mass. So if your center of mass is here, you want to, once you've played a shot, you want to be able to bring your racket back closer to you as soon as possible so that you can then play the next shot. So it's all about preparation and thinking, like in chess, thinking a step ahead.
Okay.
So if it's like with the coaching intervention that I mentioned to you when the player was on the tram line, if they're already stood in the right position, if they're already side on and not square on, they've already got their elbow in that position, then everything is just going to flow. And it's the same with a net kill. It's the same with a drive shot. If the drive is already and you're just swinging it and there's nothing there, then you've already started the problem potentially. But if the drive is in a good position, you've got the elbow in a good position, it's upright, and it's a short swing, and you can bring it back, then your racket carriage is going to be, by racket carriage, I mean, you're going to be ready for the next shot.
Okay, perfect. The third one. In which situations is it more effective to smash down the middle rather than to the sides?
So, in my opinion, in terms of doubles play, I think the shot down the center of the court is potentially of great use because there's less margin for error. You're not smashing all the way down the tram lines, and also the potential of confusion in doubles as well. Because it's in between both players, then there's a bit of confusion. Or do I go for it, or does my partner go for it? So that potentially gives you more time as well for the next shot. In singles, I think it's maybe slightly different. You'll see a lot of the smashes, and this actually links into my research, into the Hawkeye research. We've looked at a lot of the smashes in singles. The majority of smashes will be towards the first tram line on either side. But you will see a lot of the winners that are hit, they will be hit towards the body or the right hip as well. So it might be the case, and we still need to find this from the Hawkeye research, from the Hawkeye project that we're doing with the Badminton World Federation, that potentially maybe there's some kind of a setup there. They're smashing towards the tram lines first, but because the opposition has then got used to that, then it's leaving the body more vulnerable to attack.
Okay. And how does body angle influence the direction and power of the smash?
So body angle, we might call it smash or smash angle, shuttlecock angle of the smash. I think that's what you're referring to. So steeper smashes have been shown to be faster from previous research from my PhD, simply because the shuttlecock hasn't got to travel as far. But as we've spoken about before in the presentation, golf and badminton are very different sports. In golf, for example, there's no net, but in badminton there is a net. So if you are going to smash the shuttlecock steeper, then you've got more chance of hitting the net. So there has to be some kind of trade-off there in terms of speed and accuracy. Will come into that as well. But certainly smashing the shuttlecock steeper has advantages in that it will reduce the amount of time that the opponent has to get it because it will be quick, inevitably faster, quicker, probably some physics principles there. But also because the opponent's having to reach down. They're having to reach down and it's not up there. So has its benefits, but like we said before, there's potentially a trade-off there in terms of how steep you want the smash to be. But that can be coached and supported with use of targets.
Okay. And the last one, what are the benefits of reading the opponent before deciding to do a smash?
The benefits are massive. They're huge. If you're trying to smash and you're not looking at the opponent on the other side of the court, then that makes no sense. And
Why are you doing it?
yeah, why are you doing it? And it relates to some theory around the ecological dynamics framework, which involves the constraints-led approach, which I talked to you guys about earlier, from another theory cut by James Gibson in 1960s, I believe. Don't put me on it exactly, but
No.
around that year. His theory was around perception and action, being able to perceive and act. So if you're not perceiving the opponent in front of you, then you don't have those important cues. You don't have where their racket position is. Is it closer towards their right side? Is it closer towards their left side? Is it out in front of them? You don't have the cues in terms of where their foot position is. What's their positioning in terms of the court? If you're not perceiving that information, then you can't make informed decisions on the shot that you're going to play next. So perception and action, perceiving your opponent is crucial, very important.
Okay, so that's it. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much,
No
Idrees.
problema. It's been an absolute pleasure doing the last presentation and interview around some of your work that you're doing with JJAB, meeting you both, and then doing this fantastic presentation as well. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much and congratulations for your work, Idrees. Thank you very much.
Gracias, amigo. Gracias. Thank you.
Bye bye, Idrees. Bye bye.
Thank you very much. Adiós. Chao, chao, chao.
Bueno, familia de Jugamos Juntos a Bádminton. Esperamos que les haya gustado este nuevo vídeo que hemos realizado con nuestro amigo Idrees, un científico del deporte que nos ha enseñado muchísimos detalles. La verdad que me llevo muchísimos aprendizajes. No sabía que habían tantas partes del cuerpo involucradas en el remate y creo que nos va a venir muy bien pues analizar esas cositas pequeñas para mejorar nuestro golpeo. No sé qué te ha parecido a ti, ¿con qué te has quedado?
Yo creo que los conceptos de inercia, velocidad y puntería hay que analizarlos bien, porque tienen tela.
Espero que les haya gustado. Hemos respondido a varias preguntas de la comunidad y creo que ahí pues hemos aportado muchísimo valor. Animarles a que cuando tengamos esas encuestas pues que participen, porque creo que puede venir muy bien.
Exacto.
Y nada, hasta la próxima.
Nos vemos en la pista.